Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. This is AWANI Tonight. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has instructed a review of the 11 billion ringgit 5G network contract awarded by Digital Nasional Berhad (DNB) under the previous administration. He had previously warned that the lack of transparency behind the deal can potentially evolve into a scandal as big as 1MDB.
I've instructed that this be reviewed, because it was not done in a transparent manner. There was no proper tender process, and therefore we need to review to make sure that we follow a strict financial procedure to ensure that things are done properly.
On July 1st, DNB, an agency under the Finance Ministry, was tasked with the country's 5G rollout and appointed Ericsson Malaysia to handle the design and development of the country's end-to-end 5G network. DNB said that the 11 billion ringgit cost of the 5G infrastructure development was lower than the original budgeted cost of 15 billion ringgit.
Meanwhile, Digital Communications Minister Fahmi Fadzil, in a separate media conference, said that he is looking forward to meet up with representatives from DNB to understand the situation better. Fahmi also clarified that the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Council, or MCMC, under his purview is only in charge of the spectrum distribution.
The issue of spectrum, that is under MCMC, under the Ministry of Communications. I have not been fully briefed on the 5G rollout as yet. I look forward to meeting with representatives from DNB to understand the current situation. The Ministry has briefed me on the state of rollout, but I'd like to hear directly from DNB. And I think with regards to issue of spectrum distribution, whatever my personal sentiments before, the situation now is I'm the minister in charge, and so it's something that I will have to refer to Cabinet and seek some, not clarification, but instruction from Cabinet.
Cabinet ministers have agreed to a 20% pay cut from their monthly salaries. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said this will be implemented until the economy recovers, whenever that may be.
The matter was agreed upon in the special cabinet meeting this morning. Anwar said the move was part of acknowledging the challenges faced by the people. He added that the pay cut could range from 3 to 5 years depending on the economic situation. He also clarified that he would not be taking any salary as finance minister, despite appointing himself to the portfolio. On December 2nd, Anwar unveiled his cabinet lineup made up of 28 ministers, with Barisan Nasional's Datuk Sri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi and Gabungan Parti Sarawak's Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof serving as his deputies.
Rafizi Ramli said that the retabling of the national budget is expected in the next 1 or 2 months. During his maiden press conference as Economy Minister, Rafizi also confirmed that a mini budget will be tabled in the upcoming Parliament sitting on December 19th and 20th, specifically involving the allocation of emoluments for civil servants.
Meanwhile, commenting on his immediate priorities as Economic Affairs Minister, Rafizi said, among other things, is to pay greater attention to economic activities that could help push the country into the high-income nation bracket. A lot of focus will also be given to less well-off states, with a high number of poor households, as well as to the most economically vulnerable groups in society. He said the most important thing to do is to make sure that there is strong cohesion from the top leadership of the government all the way down to make sure that what is being planned is actually carried out properly.
And the message is being communicated well to put everyone on the right track. And then I think we can have the momentum so that the country can focus on building the economy rather than all the other, too much politics.
Meanwhile, commenting on Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's decision to take up the finance portfolio, Rafizi Ramli said the extraordinary political climate in the country has made it necessary for him to do so in an effort to not dissatisfy any component parties within the coalition government. However, he said that his stand on the separation of duties between the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister remains.
Sudah tentu setiap komponen mahu jawatan Menteri Kewangan itu berada di pihak mereka. Jadi kalau contohnya ada orang daripada PH yang jadi Menteri Kewangan pun, itu akan ada masalah kepada BN. Kalau daripada BN ada masalah kepada PH dan GPS dan lain-lain. Oleh kerana is an extraordinary situation now, maka keputusan itu bagi saya sesuai buat masa sekarang, iaitu senang Perdana Menteri yang jadi Menteri Kewangan, supaya dia tak timbul isu tentang gabungan yang berbeza. But I hope as we move forward and as we put everything in place, then certainly the situation now is an exception, not a norm.
Anwar's decision to be finance minister has been the subject of criticism, as Pakatan Harapan had pledged in its 2018 general election manifesto that the Prime Minister would not hold the finance portfolio in its administration. Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin today responded to police reports against him over the alleged expenditure of 600 billion ringgit in government funds during his time as Prime Minister. The Perikatan National Chairman said that he had never embezzled or misused the funds, adding that he is ready to be investigated. In a statement, he said he was unsure where the figure of 600 billion ringgit had come from, suggesting that it was a reference to the economic stimulus packages worth 530 billion ringgit he had implemented at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of this amount, he said a large portion had been non-fiscal and did not involve government expenditure. He added that such a large sum of funds would definitely not have gone unnoticed by the National Audit Department, who audits government spending annually, of which the report is then presented by the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament. A few police reports were lodged on the matter, with some MPs pushing for a Royal Commission of Inquiry. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said there were several serious lapses in the alleged 600 billion ringgit expenditure during Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin's term as Prime Minister. But there had been no discussion yet on whether or not a Royal Commission of Inquiry was required to investigate the matter. He added that he would leave it to the discretion of the Cabinet to decide on the next course of action.
Setakat yang saya tahu dan diberi maklumat oleh pegawai, ada beberapa pelanggaran yang agak serius, ya, terutama bila perolehan terlalu banyak. Jadi bila kita luluskan beberapa projek, jadi markup itu terlalu tinggi dan dana itu sampai kepada parti-parti tertentu yang memperlihatkan keupayaan mereka berbelanja luar biasa.
A coalition agreement will be signed by the ruling parties in the government to ensure the stability of its administration. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Zamri Abdul Kadir, who is also Barisan National Secretary General, said the pact will be signed very soon once all parties have finalized the terms.
The most important thing, how you create this the coalition's agreement for all parties to come together. That is very important. Yeah? Otherwise, we wouldn't have this kind of coalition. So we have to take care every party in this coalition government. And we discussed together. We had several series of discussions. Then I can say at this stage that we almost come to a final draft of that agreement.
The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living will immediately activate the National Action Council on Cost of Living, or NACOL, to find solutions to the cost of living issue plaguing the people. Its Minister, Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub, said that he would hold a meeting with the Ministry's Secretary General, Datuk Azman Muhammad Yusof, to discuss the matter.
Salahuddin said the meeting is for him to present to the Prime Minister measures to resolve some of the issues presented during a meeting between the Chief Secretary to the Government and Secretaries General together with the Prime Minister on November 27th. Anwar, during that meeting, had instructed NACOL to analyse and go through the subsidy implications within 2 weeks. Among the measures Salahuddin is looking to explore are related to price and its control period, subsidies, method and speed of distribution, export of national produce and production costs.
Defence Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Hassan has pledged to continue implementing policies under the Defence White Paper. And when asked about the littoral combat ship issue, he said that he will need more time to look into the matter.
Pihak Angkatan Tentera Malaysia telah pun dapat kelulusan daripada pihak Parlimen berkenaan kertas putih pertahanan negara dan telah pun memulakan langkah-langkah strategik untuk terus memperkasakan Angkatan Tentera Malaysia dalam ketiga-tiga perkhidmatan, tentera darat, tentera laut dan tentera udara. Jadi saya akan meneruskan apa yang sedang dilakukan oleh pihak Kementerian Angkatan Tentera dan kita cuba sedaya upaya untuk menambah nilai apa-apa yang perlu kita perkasakan lagi.
The Defence White Paper was first tabled in Parliament in 2019 to function as Malaysia's 10-year policy plan for defence and national security. It aimed to address Malaysia's main threats and challenges in the coming years, including terrorism, tensions in the South China Sea and cybersecurity.
On to international developments, over 2,500 residents in Indonesia's Java Island were forced to evacuate after Mount Semeru erupted over the weekend. No casualties have been reported so far, but the eruption prompted authorities to impose an 8-kilometer no-go zone. Locals were seen recovering items and rescuing livestock on Monday as the eruption sent massive column of ash into the sky. Officials have announced a state of emergency for the next 2 weeks. Visual observation of Mount Semeru on Monday morning indicated less intense volcanic activity, but authorities warned of potential danger from lava flows that had cooled after heavy rain. Last year, a volcanic eruption on Mount Semeru killed 51 people and damaged more than 5,000 homes while forcing nearly 10,000 people to seek refuge. Indonesia is expected to ratify sweeping changes to its criminal code, which includes penalizing sex outside of marriage with up to 1 year in jail. The previous draft of the code was set to be passed in 2019, but it sparked nationwide protests over perceived threats to civil liberties.
The law also allows the parents of unmarried people to report them for having sex. Cohabitation before marriage will also be banned, and those convicted could face a 6-month prison sentence. The revision also maintains some controversial articles, penalizing those who insult the president and expressing views counter to the national ideology known as the Pancasila. Decades in the making, the revision of the country's penal code has sparked mass protests in recent years, although the response has been considerably more muted this year. Once ratified, the new code will come into effect after 3 years to allow for drafts of related implementing regulations and would apply to Indonesian citizens and foreigners alike.
New Zealand will launch a wide-ranging inquiry into whether it made the right decisions in battling the COVID-19 pandemic and how to better prepare for future pandemics. Among the matters that will be looked into include whether the government took the right approach initially by imposing strict lockdowns and border quarantine restrictions in order to manage the virus.
A Royal Commission of Inquiry is the highest form of public inquiry. And it's the right thing to do, given the COVID emergency was the most significant threat to the health of New Zealanders and our economy since World War II.
The zero-tolerance strategy was initially hailed internationally as a success, as New Zealand's death rate remained much lower than in other countries. But over time, the economic and social costs rose as some citizens faced big delays returning home due to a bottleneck at border quarantine facilities. The government eventually abandoned its elimination approach in October 2021 after new and more contagious variants proved impossible to contain and people were vaccinated.
That is all we have for you on AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.
Dalam membawa setiap berita, semestinya yang penting adalah untuk membawa pelbagai sudut sesuatu cerita itu.
Yang pastinya suara akar umumi, terutamanya suara rakyat, harus diberi ruang. Kami di Astro AWANI sentiasa komited.